Good afternoon, good morning to our West Coast attendees. I'm Eric Updegrove. I'm the General Manager of Fierce Software. I'd like to welcome you to our Red Hat and Cloudera integration webinar. We've hosted today this message specifically for our state, local, and education customers. This afternoon, we're going to be hearing from representatives of both Red Hat and Cloudera, telling you from both sides and from the middle of the integration appliance that Red Hat and Cloudera have created together. I will allow our Red Hatters and Cloudera folks to introduce themselves. Welcome aboard, everyone. We'll move into the next slide.
Good afternoon, our esteemed customers and partners. First, I want to say a big thank you to Fierce Software for coordinating a webinar to showcase the power of CDP Private Cloud running on OpenShift. And before I get into the main content, I want to give you a quick overview of what to expect and who the presenters are from Red Hat and Cloudera. By way of introduction, my name is Ed Siu, and I manage the Public Sector Channel Program for CGSI, which stands for Cloudera Government Solutions, Inc. And I'll be sharing the vision of our go-to-market strategy. And then similarly, Frank DiMuzio will share Red Hat's vision and why being an open organization is critical to our joint success. Then following that, Dan Domkowski will share his perspective from the field and expand on how we solve some of our customers' typical challenges. And then lastly, most importantly, I would say that Tej Tanmatam, he will be showing you a demo of CDP Private Cloud running on OpenShift, so you can actually witness the power of our joint solution. So to reiterate what Eric said, we do have a lot of content this afternoon. So I ask that you please post your questions in the question box, or I believe it's the chat box on Zoom. So if you can do that, we will answer all questions at the end. So next slide, please. I'd like to start out introducing the new Cloudera. So as some of you may know, post the Hortonworks and Cloudera merger, roughly about a year and a half ago, we became the enterprise data cloud company. And that simply means that we believe that data can make what's impossible today possible tomorrow. And the way to think about this is that that's the art of the possible, right? With the amount of data that's being created today, it's just an explosion of it. It's really, there's so much that can be done by harnessing the power of data. Secondly, we empower the people to transform complex data into clear and actionable insights. And you'll witness some of this in the demo later today. And what we do is that we deliver a cloud native data lifecycle solution. And you will see this later also, because very importantly, the latest iteration of the solution runs on OpenShift. And so that plays a massive part of our company mission statement, just our partnership with Red Hat. I would also like to just, since we have the audience is specific to government, at Cloudera Government Solutions, we have our very own mission statement, and that's to further the public sector's missions as a trusted advisor, strategic partner, and enterprise capability provider. And now I'll pass it over to my friend Frank, just to do a quick intro from Red Hat.
Yeah, thanks a lot, Ed, and good morning, good afternoon, everybody. And special thanks, obviously, to Eric and the Fierce Software team for having us on here today and putting this together. So, as Ed mentioned, my name is Frank DiMuzio. I lead the Emerging Technology Solutions team for Red Hat's state and local and higher education business. And so we really focus on driving the most innovative open source solutions into the public sector. For those of you out there that aren't as familiar with Red Hat, we're the world's leading provider of enterprise open source solutions. We pioneered bringing the Linux operating system to the enterprise. It's probably how many of you know us. But now today we focus on really a full array of full stack enterprise software solutions. Most notably, probably, and one that you're going to get a heavy dose of today, is our OpenShift container platform. And so one of the things that I think is unique about Red Hat and sets us apart in the industry is really our focus on open source, not just for software development, but actually the way that we run our business and how we work with our customers and our partners. So things like collaboration, building communities, having a metacratic society or an ecosystem is really important for us, and obviously working transparently with customers and partners and other other vendor players in the marketplace is really important for us. It's a way that we think drives innovation, how we deliver value, and ultimately how we impact the mission for the public sector and for the education space. So it's important, I think, as we go through this, you'll see, I think a lot of this is not just about the technology itself. It's about how applying these principles of open source can really drive value into the things that you're doing in your daily tasks. Ed, back to you.
Thank you, Frank. Yeah, there's no doubt that Red Hat has pioneered the open source development model, and that's something that Cloudera has embraced wholeheartedly as an entire organization. So just to give you a few figures here, I'm sure that you see a lot of these slides in webinars, but it's important to mention that we have a sizable footprint. We have over 2,000 customers, 400,000 servers in the enterprise data centers. So imagine that puts us at 5 exabytes of data under management. So that again is significant. And we're also considered the 7th largest database vendor worldwide. I think the main takeaway from a slide like this is that between Red Hat and Cloudera, we have helped thousands of mutual customers adopt trusted open source solutions that are now a critical part of their enterprise. So another thing to mention is that collectively, we have the experience and capability to run, I would say, thousands of mission critical workloads at scale. So next slide here. I'd like to just talk a little bit about these trends. We see a convergence between digital transformation initiatives and data-centric challenges. So if you start on the very left-hand side here, the fact is that legacy systems are not equipped for today's volume, variety, and data velocity. And when considering adding or expanding capabilities with old tech, while hoping to modernize, this is often cost prohibitive. Second, we see data silos everywhere. The sharing of data and the fusion necessary for these systems, and many of these systems are emerging use cases that we haven't seen before. It's not only difficult to integrate that data, it's sometimes impossible for security reasons. Connected to the data silos portion is the organizational silos, which can also be cultural challenges, right? It's developers talking to admins, it's business leaders talking to engineers. It is cultural differences that are now being brought front and center as these new technologies, I would say, grow in the enterprise. Part of this changes is obviously perpetuated by the introduction of cloud. This has been happening for the past 5 or 6 years. Everybody needs speed, agility, elasticity. Those are the common things that we want from a cloud. But it also presents the challenges in government, similar to having new strategies. When you have your cloud strategy, how do you weave in your data strategy, or if you have one at all? How do you actually avoid the vendor lock-in from a single cloud provider? Or the latest thing now is like, how do you actually get a multi-cloud strategy with your applications and your current systems? These are complex questions that require, again, a very clear strategy. And lastly, I was speaking about security and governance. I mean, this is front and center in every single, say, commercial organization, but even more so in government. So I'm glad to say that we can help solve many of these challenges with CDP Private Cloud running on OpenShift. And in general, like, how do you actually tackle these questions, right? I mean, we know that these are challenges. These are not new to us. We hear them every day with our conversations. So if we go into the next slide, one of the questions that we get frequently is, well, how do you address these, right? Well, the first thing that we ask is, do you actually have a data strategy? So it's not surprising that most countries and agencies have already adopted the data strategy. The federal government has a data strategy, but how does that trickle down to the state and local government? In short, we help our customers develop this, and it's an iterative process. It's not just one solution to rule them all. We know it's a combination of things, but we do have a few things that we adhere to. And this strategy is built on these 4 pillars. So as you can see right here on this, the enterprise data cloud is really how we approach the market. So first of all, the enterprise data cloud has to be hybrid and multi-cloud by default. This allows for maximum choice and flexibility. Second of all, and this is critical, and we'll see this play out, we have to have the capabilities to move data and applications without rewriting and retraining them. Again, we can't have multiple data management tools under the same infrastructure. 2, for our government customers, they need to have the ability to manage all environments from a single pane of glass. And this is what SDX does. It's a secret sauce for CDP, and you'll see Tej doing a demo of it later. And 4th, which I have to say is probably nearest and dearest to me, is that the strategy has to have an open source component. This pillar is what makes us unique. When I think about open source, I really think about adopting not only innovative technologies, but when you work with a company like Red Hat and Cloudera together, you're bringing that innovation at the enterprise level. So you're able to have secure and enterprise-ready open source software. And then next. Now double click into this because I think this will really set the stage. So what you're gonna see. When the first layer of the question is, do you have a data strategy? Well, the best way to think about it is actually going through a journey. And in here, I'm just gonna walk you through it. This is a typical, what we call the data journey. What has to happen to your data from collection to machine learning. So first and foremost, your data typically has to be generated somewhere. It could be in an end device. It has to be collected, right? So that's the first step of the journey. The second part of that journey is that once you've collected that data, you have to enrich it. You have to have your data scientist massage it, make sure that it's the right type of data so that you can have the right reports. You're gonna have a good data warehouse. So then you can actually serve that up to the right business units through an operational database. And lastly, and this is where most people want to go today, is to have those machine learning and AI capabilities. So you can't just get to step 5 without addressing step 3 or step 2. Today, we see a lot of our customers in multiple stages of this journey. They may have one component, they may have a data warehouse, but they may be, have a very poor way of collecting data from multiple sources. Well, what makes this unique is, yes, you can have customers across multiple parts of this journey, but if you look at the very bottom of this, you see the SDX run alongside the bottom. Cloudera's SDX is the shared data experience. That provides a security, governance, and lineage management and automation. What that is basically a control plane or the single pane of glass that is able to manage all these experiences wherever you are. And again, you're able to set the right governance so you can have the right users, or then expose that data to, again, the right business units. This is incredibly powerful and something that today there's nobody else in the industry that can do it. And second of all, I would just, aside from being a very unique position of having a very powerful solution, is that this is now certified to run on OpenShift as of last month. So if you're already a Red Hat customer and you're running a containerized environment, today you can take advantage of 2 of these experiences, and Tej will speak to that later today. So Frank, I believe this is your slide.
Yeah, no, thanks, Ed. So yeah, I couldn't agree more with the principles that you talked about, you mentioned. I mean, I think, you know, the way that we make this a reality for our customers is by having that, you know, that consistent platform to be able to do that innovative work. And so that consistent platform, as he mentioned, is OpenShift Container Platform. So just really quickly for everybody out there, if you're not familiar, OpenShift is an open source container application platform based on Kubernetes. And it's really designed to streamline application and workload development and deployment across a heterogeneous environment. So whether you are deploying assets in the public cloud, whether you're deploying assets on premise, on bare metal, on a Z mainframe, you know, on VMware virtual machines, you get a consistent experience all throughout. OpenShift was named the industry's clear leader by a recent Forrester Wave report. And so one of the reasons for this is it inherits in a lot of ways the security properties and stability and the kind of the tried and true nature of its host OS, which is Red Hat Enterprise Linux or RHEL. That's the same OS that powers the New York Stock Exchange. It runs the world's fastest supercomputer. And that's really important for obviously the public sector and the higher education and research space where these characteristics are required. And so, you know, we're really happy to be here today with Cloudera, talking about how we can bring this vision to life on this platform. And both Dan, who's up next, as well as Tej will get into that. So by way of introduction, I want to turn it over to a colleague of mine, Dan Domkowski, who really specializes in the data analytics, the application of artificial intelligence and machine learning on top of Kubernetes platforms like OpenShift to give you more information. Dan, I'll turn it over to you.
Yeah, thanks a lot, Frank. I appreciate that introduction on OpenShift because it's helping us to manage all types of workloads in the hybrid cloud. And the reason why we talk so much about the hybrid cloud is because our data is hybrid, our applications are hybrid, our data is scattered everywhere. In a recent survey from the Harvard Business Review, found that enterprises are actually deploying their data into multiple environments. And if anything, based on anecdotal evidence from the past few months during the pandemic, that has been accelerating. And between on-premises, multi-clouds, and even into the edge, our data is something that's being generated faster, being integrated with other systems faster, and if anything, our teams are looking to cloud solutions to help innovate and find meaningful results of that data. If you could go to the next slide. And there are a lot of challenges with making use of all of that. You know, this is a healthcare example here in the diagram that I have on the right when it comes to EHR and EMR systems, but this applies to any industry in my experience, that you have a mix of old and new systems generating this kind of data. You have a lack of standardization on the data, that one vendor might be reporting on blood pressure in one way and another in a completely separate way. That leads to data proximity issues based on the environment you're talking about, because your edge, your on-prem, your cloud investments in different clouds for that matter, may all be generating data. And even those places, even if the data is standardized, even if it is able to be integrated, being able to secure it, being able to have good quality, consistent data, and the ability for those separate vendors to want to talk to one another becomes troublesome. In fact, you know, you might be able to both agree on FHIR standards. You might be able to both agree on HL7 for your data formats, but there are other ways in which vendors selfishly especially in the proprietary world, might want to actually block another vendor from seeing their data. And as a result, as a provider, as a manufacturer, as a state government, as a retailer, it doesn't matter who you are, it makes your life more difficult. And it makes it tough to seize on the integration of all of those data assets. Next slide, please. So, so your hybrid cloud strategy is then not as much about, I need to support multiple environments. It's a part of that, but it's really driven by how you can integrate your applications and integrate your data, knowing that you are scattered, knowing that you are spread all over into multiple environments. So more than just trying to create standardization, it's about creating consistency, portability, so that workloads can move from one environment to another, that they're automatically not locked into someone's cloud, that you have the ability to discover where data might be coming from, where applications are generating data, where services are being utilized, and be able to sometimes do the compute for your data next to where that data is stored. It's really expensive to ship data between cloud providers. It's really expensive to ship it within your own environments. And as a result, you might want to not necessarily ship that data. You might want to do that analysis in real time based on streaming events right from where that data is being generated, and then make a decision then and there. Sometimes that means on-prem, sometimes that means the edge, sometimes that means the cloud. But having that flexibility, that portability to be able to do that at your choosing is what's going to make you develop a prosperous and innovative hybrid cloud strategy. And open standards are a key to that. And Tej is going to go through a little bit of this in talking about some of the data streaming capabilities, some of the data analytics capabilities that you can have in any environment when he comes up and briefs on his demo. Next slide, please. So now we know that hybrid cloud and having a strategy around your investments in all areas is going to be beneficial to you. But how do you also iterate on your work? How do you also have a continuous flow of work where you can try new things, experiment, fail, try again, succeed, and innovate? Well, you need to be able to have an iterative flow to your work. And oftentimes we hear that as DevOps and agile development. And both principles absolutely apply to data science. And if anything, not only do they apply, they're extremely important to the world of data science, because data science in itself is an iterative flow of work. There's always work around trying to version your systems, trying to deliver software into an IT infrastructure, analyze that data, make use of it, train models, experiment with new models, and then share out models that are successful and bring them into a production workflow where they can also be monitored and always improved upon, because their accuracy may decrease over time, their performance may decrease over time, the delivery of new models may actually provide better outcomes on your data. So it's always important to be iterating, especially when it comes to data science as well. So how do you iterate, and how do you do it in a hybrid cloud environment? Next slide, please. This is what is going to deliver on those outcomes, is that consistent flow of work of any environment. This is what Frank was speaking to when it comes to the enterprise data platform as OpenShift, that platform that can deploy to multiple environments, whether it's your physical on-prem instances, your virtual on-prem instances, any number of clouds, the edge, being able to support multiple compute types for compute acceleration, especially for data science and AI ML, such as GPUs and TPUs. Having that consistent flow, no matter where you are, is crucial to being able to deliver and have all boats in your organization row in the same direction. Now, on what Ed and Tej upcoming will talk about, it's also critically important to have that consistent flow too with machine learning tools, and being able to, for a data scientist, be able to have self-service access to tools for notebooks, for Python development, RStudio, machine learning ops at the ready, and the Cloudera Data Platform provides that. Not only can you get data integration, meaning that you can make those connections with Red Hat and Cloudera into disparate application and data storage environments, but now even in that same platform, you can do analysis on that data and deliver meaningful results. And you can follow that consistent flow all the way from identifying what your goals are as an organization, to integrating and preparing that data, to delivering the models on that data, to putting them into production, and then monitoring and doing the cycle all over again. This is what the best of both worlds has to offer. And this use case has been realized too. It has been developed and delivered. We've seen it time and time again. In the next slide here, I'm going to be able to show you that HCA Healthcare has executed on that vision. And they've done it with OpenShift before. What they've done is they've been able to deliver on a platform that collects data across 200 plus hospital sites across the world, mostly in the US. But what they're able to do is monitor 30,000 patients a day, their EHR and EMR data sets. And they're able to use machine learning to discover meaningful insights around the data in those records to be able to determine if a patient actually is susceptible or has been diagnosed with sepsis. And they're able to discover that 5 hours ahead of traditional screening methods. And as reported by HCA, 5 hours to them has been able to save lives in their hospitals and clinics. And that's, again, all because they had a platform that could deploy across multiple environments, where they could iterate across any of those environments in the same way they would if they were in their on-prem data center or in the cloud or at a hospital site, and be able to do that analysis and get those results in real time. And once they get those results, they're able to alert clinicians and care managers in order to respond to patients that would be more susceptible or highly sensitive to a sepsis outbreak. And that is an outcome that they can realize based on a hybrid cloud DevOps platform with an iterative data science approach. Next slide. Same exact use case again, where Boston Children's Hospital, in this case, another healthcare perspective, is able to do some high performance computing on their machine learning algorithms based on imagery coming from brain imagery, or from brain imagery coming from CT scans and MRIs, to be able to do analytics on top of thousands of images, all sometimes for a clinician or researcher to be meeting with a patient, so that they could discover deviations from the norm and be able to look at various regions of the brain and be able to have some real meaningful analysis, all while potentially meeting with a patient or in more rapid delivery while they're conducting their research. And again, they're collecting data from multiple sites. They're doing machine learning to be able to give them real access to real outputs. They're doing it on a high performance computing environment so that they could get those accelerated outcomes quicker. They're using object storage to help with their HIPAA compliance, and they're getting meaningful results faster so that they can help drive healthcare and healthcare research. Next slide. And what the Cloudera Data Platform on top of OpenShift does is it accelerates this vision of what I just talked about with Boston Children's Hospital and HCA Healthcare, that you can get time to value with faster onboarding, with the ability to directly impact your outcomes on your data. And as we know from books like Accelerate by Gene Kim, Nicole Forsgren, and Jen Hubble, that if you can accelerate your delivery of software, no matter what your industry is, what your mission or business outcomes are, that you're going to be more successful as an organization. And that's what the Cloudera Data Platform and OpenShift do together, is that you can accelerate machine learning, accelerate integration of your data. You can apply the algorithms, the models, and the training necessary to that data to discover meaningful results. and you can deliver on those outcomes in any environment. And that's what's going to help organizations be able to provide a very cost-efficient, enterprise-grade environment that wraps security as top of mind for clinicians, police officers, government staff members, you name it. And that's a vision that's worth talking about here, worth demoing for sure. And that's where I'm going to hand it over to Tej to give you more of a reality visual of what this type of integration between Red Hat and Cloudera provide. So take it away, Tej.
Thank you so much, Dan. Yep, Ed, I'm going to share my screen right now. Good afternoon, everyone. So I'm going to talk about and show the CDP Private Cloud. So CDP Private Cloud is our new on-premise offering of Cloudera's data platform. This offering brings many of the benefits of public cloud deployments to the on-prem world. Here at Cloudera, we have heard our customers' feedback loud and clear. They wanted to separate their storage and compute clusters. They want to be able to scale their compute and storage clusters independent of each other. They want to bring this both agility and predictable performance to analytical applications. And at the same time, they want to have unified security, governance, and metadata management. They also want to innovate and go to market faster with an easy operational experience. The architecture of a CDP Private Cloud that you see here was driven in response to those customer requirements and feedback. So what you're looking here to your left is the storage cluster. This is where you have your Hadoop file system, which is a block store, and Ozone, which is an object store. So in addition to this distributed storage options, this base cluster also includes Hive Metastore, Atlas, and Ranger. So what they do is they provide this data security, governance, and metadata management to your data. Going to the right, this is our compute cluster. So this compute cluster runs on top of Red Hat's OpenShift cluster. So at Cloudera, our engineering chose OpenShift because Red Hat's OpenShift was the first one to make Kubernetes enterprise ready. OpenShift, if you look in the marketplace, OpenShift is transforming how enterprises build and run software. It makes it easy for them to automate the hard parts of deployment so that enterprises can focus on reliability and hide complexity. We at Cloudera are excited that we are using OpenShift as our Kubernetes platform of our choice. So CDP Private Cloud version 1, which went live last month, in this version 1, we went live with 2 experiences that you are seeing here on top. So these 2 experiences are running on OpenShift cluster. So drilling into the first experience listed here, CML, which stands for Cloudera's machine learning. So using Cloudera's machine learning, your data scientists, they can actually build and run their AI and machine learning workloads. This CML provides a browser-based access to the compute resources they need. They can choose a language of their choice, whether it is Python, R, Spark, or Scala, and an IDE of their choice, whether it is Jupyter Notebook, RStudio, Zeppelin, or even use Cloudera's own Cloudera's Workbench. So that's CML. The other experience that we went live with is the Cloudera's Data Warehouse, or CDW. So using Cloudera's Data Warehouse, your data analysts, they can actually create virtual warehouses through one click to provision a virtual warehouse, and then they can easily auto scale their virtual warehouses based on their SLAs. So that's the architecture. Now, what are the key use cases and benefits of this architecture? So if I have to look into that, so the first one, right, is the simplified isolation and multi-tenancy that this architecture brings in through Kubernetes namespaces. In addition to that, a common shared data experience and governance that is achieved through Atlas and Ranger. You will see in my demo that like everything is one click to provision. So one click provisioning of compute resources depending on the type of the workload. So with this architecture, what it leads to for enterprises is that a better resource utilization and better SLAs. So those were the key use cases and benefits. Now, let me go and show you the look and feel and some of the features of this Cloudera Data Platform's private cloud offering. So first is the CDP Based Cluster. So as I said, this is your storage cluster. I mean, this cluster has components such as a Hadoop data file system, an Ozone for an object store, a Hive for metadata management, Atlas, which gives you the data governance, and Ranger, which gives you data security, auditing, authentication, and authorization functionality. So that's your CDP base cluster. Going to the next one, the compute cluster that you're seeing here, this is running on Red Hat's OpenShift container platform. So version 1 of our CDP Private Cloud offering requires an OCP, OpenShift Container Platform version 4.3. So going into the, so once your users, right, whether it is your data scientist or your data analyst, once they log into the control plane, so this is what they see. They see these two experiences, data warehouse and machine learning. So with version 1, we went with these two experiences, but come next release, we will have within the private cloud, we will have more experiences such as Cloudera's data flow, which is our streaming solution. And then we will also see a data engineering experience that will help your engineers to tackle ETL workloads, and also an operational database. So those experiences are coming in the next release. But for now, let me go ahead and drill into one of these experiences, right? So let's go into machine learning. So if I look at machine learning, right? So CML gives your data scientists a browser-based access to the compute resources. So as you can see in this screenshot, right? This demo environment that I have set up for this demo, it is using 188 vCPUs and close to 1.5 terabyte of memory. So those resources are available for my data scientists to build and deploy their machine learning models. So I do not have any GPUs on my demo environment, but had I had access to GPUs, they would show up here so that your data scientists can actually share their GPU resources as well. So with that, let's go ahead and look at a use case, right? So, I mean, for the demo, what I've done is I picked the COVID data set. So the data set, the data for this visualization that I'm showing here is coming from 4 different sources. So I picked the data from covidtracking.com. I also picked data from Johns Hopkins, New York Times, and RT.live. And what I'm doing is that I'm getting this raw data from these 4 different sources. I'm ingesting that into our platform using Apache NiFi. And after some exploratory data analysis, these are some of the visualizations that you are seeing here. So this is the summary of COVID trends, and the data was fetched just a couple of hours back. So drilling into this, right? So I mean, if I drill into this data set, I can use T statistics to determine the states that are performing better when compared to the others, right? Even if I have to drill further, I can look into a scatter plot of confirmed cases versus new cases on an exponential scale. So, I mean, the point of this visualization is that, I mean, we took raw data, did exploratory analysis, created a model, and deployed a visual application to tell a story. So the data always tells a story, and this data is now telling us a story. So the thing is, I mean, as Dan mentioned, right, to even get to that visualization, Dan showed you a slide where he was talking about the ML ops. The data science is a machine learning. It's an iterative process, right? So your data scientists they typically do multiple experiments, right? They capture the metrics. And then once they do that, right, so we have that functionality within CML to capture the metrics, do the experiments. And once they do that, what they do is they deploy their machine learning models. So we take out the hard part of deploying the machine learning model. The data scientists get let's say a Python script. The automation of exposing that model as a REST API is all automated for your data scientists. So not only creating the models, so in this use case, right, the COVID data set, I told you that I'm fetching the data every 1 hour. So running the batch workloads, such as this, right, it is running every 1 hour from those, fetching the data from those 4 external data sources. And once they do that, they visualize that application, right? So they can, they deploy that as a visual application. So what you have seen with this demo with Cloudera's machine learning, the entire life cycle of the data, from all the way from research and development all the way to production, we have automated that. Whether you are analyzing the data, building and training the models, to essentially deploying them as REST APIs, all of it can be done from within this Cloudera's machine learning tool. And this is all running on OpenShift container platform. So with that, what I will do, I'll switch to the next experience. So I was talking about Cloudera's data warehouse, right? So a data warehouse, I mean, a data analyst, again, everything within our platform or this offering is one click to provision. So that's key, right? So to provision a machine learning environment, it was one click to do that. Same thing with the data warehouse. So your data analysts log in, and then they have this a plus option here to create a virtual warehouse. And once they do that, right, so depending on the type of the workload they are running, they choose whether it is a Hive LLAP or Impala. So these are 2 different SQL engines. So, I mean, depending on the use case. So let's say if you are, Hive LLAP is great if you're dealing with complex queries, right? If it has to fetch, if you're joining multiple tables, let's say you're running a financial report, you're joining multiple tables and you have multiple inner joins. So if it's a very complex query, then Hive is amazing for those workloads. Whereas Impala is great if you're doing interactive queries. So Impala is great. It runs lightning fast to give you those analytical results. And as I said, right, like everything is one click to provision. We also give you this auto scale option. So when creating the virtual warehouse, we provide some of the out of the box t-shirt sizing. So in this case, what I have done, I picked a size extra small. So what they can do is like this workload, depending on how complex the query is, it can actually auto scale from 2 nodes to all the way to 40 nodes in an extra small case. And then I have other sizing that comes out of the box. So it's all automated for a data analyst. So it's as simple as that. And once the virtual warehouse has been created, what your data analyst can do next is that they use a browser-based tool called Hue. So they use Hue to start querying the data. So in this example, what I'm showing here, I have multiple inner joins to determine the most popular product categories. Okay, and then the next query that I'm showing you here is that how do we determine the top 10 revenue generating products? So all of this, right? So the moment I start running this query, whatever the compute resources it needs, it will go ahead and fetch it. And if it needs more resources, based on what the template size I give, it can actually start with 2 nodes, but then it can auto scale all the way to 40 nodes or whatever I have defined beforehand. So that's how simple it is for your data analyst to use this platform. So besides that, right? So now this is Cloudera's data warehouse. I mean, again, as I said, like 1 click to provision, 1 click to auto scale. So when you are in an enterprise, right, just analyzing the data or building and training the machine learning models is not enough, right? We have to kind of ensure that data is properly governed and then secured. So for that, what we use is Atlas. So Atlas provides the data governance. In the previous example, where I showed you the top 10 revenue generating products, where did the data for that products come from in enterprise? If I want to look at that, right? To look into that, all you have to do is log into Atlas and find the lineage. So here, what I'm showing, that products table that I created, it actually came from a CSV file that is sitting in a AWS S3 bucket. And from which, what I have done, I actually created an external table in Parquet format and then created a Hive table. So that lineage, all of that information is shown to you. And another use case, right? Like let's say this in that product table, maybe product price needs to be sensitive information. Maybe only some users should be able to see the product prices, right? So what they can do is they can create a classification. And here I have created a classification called sensitive. And then I gave that attribute to this product price column, right? And once I do that, I can go ahead to go to Ranger. So within Ranger, it provides role-based access control as well as attribute-based access control. So for that column called sensitive, I'm saying only these people who has those roles and that particular user. And this is the masking option that I have to, I chose to have it as nullify. So you can look at the capability here, right? So Ranger is providing auditing, it is providing authentication, and it is also providing that authorization functionality to your data. So that's the power of the platform. Now, going to the value, right? So what is it this Cloudera's Data Platform Private Cloud is providing? So with this demo, you saw that we are solving some of these challenges you see in a typical enterprise. We are solving the noisy neighbor problem. We are separating the storage and compute clusters, right? And even within the compute cluster, we are separating the machine learning workloads to a data warehousing workload. We are solving the problem of complex upgrades. Your storage cluster can be upgraded independent of your compute cluster. And even within your compute cluster, right, your machine learning environment can be upgraded independent of your data warehouse environment, right? And we are solving the problem of lack of elasticity. So as you saw in the demo, 1 click to provision, 1 click to auto scale. So we are solving that problem. And we are solving the problem of cluster sprawl, right? Let's say it's December and my data analyst wants to run a financial report. So once they are done with their workload, they can just shut down that virtual warehouse. And that leaves the resources back. Let's say your machine learning team, if they want to run an ML model, they have more resources that they can actually go ahead and use now. So that way we are solving the cluster sprawl problem. And then in an enterprise, the final and most important in an enterprise is time to value, right? So everything in the stack, you saw that 1 click to provisioning, 1 click to auto scale. So what that does is to an enterprise, it lets you innovate faster, and then it lets you go to market faster with a very easy operational experience. So that's all I have for the demo. With that, thanks for your time, and I will now hand it back to Ed.
Awesome. Thanks so much, Tej. That was a fantastic demo. And also Dan for just giving us the number of customer use cases as well. I want to end with this, right? That at the end of the day, we're better together. With Cloudera Data Platform Private Cloud that runs now on OpenShift, it aggregates and visualizes data to help enterprise companies derive actionable insights in a secure open source environment, whether on-premise or hybrid. As we all know, the world is absolutely going down the hybrid route. That seems to be today's default. And we have an incredible solution that can do both, right? It can actually manage the current workloads on-premise and still give you the capabilities for the future. And of course, it's open source, giving you the ability to be future-proof, and you won't be locked in. So there's tremendous value in our partnership with these two platforms coming together to give you a true end-to-end data lifecycle and I would say digital transformation solution. So with that said, I want to thank everybody for taking their time on this Wednesday afternoon or in the morning, wherever you are, for listening to our webinar with Red Hat, Cloudera, and really sponsored by Fierce. And at this point, I'll open it up for questions. And there's a few questions that have been submitted in the chat. So I'm going to read them off, and then I will probably pick on somebody on our teams to answer them. So the first question is, when will the other experiences be available for CDP Private Cloud? Tej, I think that you might be well equipped to handle that one.
Yes, the other experiences are coming with the version 2, which is due first quarter of next year.
Okay, and those experiences are which one? Is it
the experiences that are coming are data engineering and operational database. Perfect.
Second question is, can or should I still use public cloud providers on CDP Private Cloud?
So you can. So that's the hybrid story that we are telling, right? So you can use our CDP Public Cloud and CDP Private Cloud for your on-prem workloads. And if you are running out of compute resources and it's not easy for you to stand up new nodes, you can actually burst your workloads to the public cloud. So that's the capability of the hybrid cloud that we are talking here.
Excellent, thank you. And I believe this is the last question. What information does Cloudera or Red Hat need to provide an initial sizing? Is there a minimum node count or anything that customers should know?
Yes, there is. And so if you go to our CDP Private Cloud documentation, so it is listed as hardware requirements. If not, you can always reach out to any of us, and we will be glad to be on the call to discuss the requirements.
Yeah. Wonderful. Well, that concludes our, I think we have one more question, last minute here. Does operational engineering use HBase?
Exactly, that is correct. It uses HBase as the database.
Fantastic. Excellent. I think that's it, my friend. We don't have any more questions. So yeah, so thank you so much. On behalf of Cloudera, I do want to thank all the attendees once again for taking your time this afternoon and going through the webinar. The contact information for the different teams are here. Please interface through Fierce so you can contact us. And they'll be happy to put you in contact with myself, with Tej, with Frank, or anybody else who did the demo today.
Thank you everyone for joining us. Please keep an eye on your email. We'll be sending some resources to those who are able to attend to do some follow-on learning. Feel free to drop us a line at redhat@fiercesw.com, Cloudera@fiercesw.com. you can always visit our partners page or call our 888 number listed below. Thanks again, everyone. Have a great day.